yes. Just looking at this Conformity Act, in 1872, a federal statute providing that the practice and procedure in federal district courts, other than in equity and admiralty matters, must conform to the practice and procedure used by the state courts for like cases. Yes. The federal rules of civil procedure, effective in 1938, superseded the Conformity Act. Even where there was conformity, it was to be as near as may be, and this was understood by the court to make the Conformity Act to some extent only directory, yes, or advisory, and to permit the federal judge to disregard a state practice that would, in his view, unwisely encumber the administration of the law, or tend to defeat the ends of justice. With all these exceptions to conformity, and with the judge left somewhat at large to decide what he would conform, it is hardly surprising that the result, in the view of the distinguished commentator, a mixture of conflicting decisions, which have served to cloud the whole subject in hideous confusion and shifting certainty. Charles Allen Wright, The Law of Federal Courts. Pooh. Now, I have often given you what is known as the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure that were effective since 1938. And I don't know how many federal cases have been heard where there was no proof of service to the respondent. But why don't you get me all the federal judges? In every district court everywhere in the United States. It seems that they didn't really think that the rules of the LA County or LA City Bar Association, yes. But I'm wanting to sue each and every judge, all federal judges, all federal judges. I gotta fucking talk. See, the Conformity Act, yes, 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 was superseded by the federal rules of civil procedure, right? I often mentioned, well, how many times does the petitioner not have to appear in federal court? Now, a lot of times, okay, let's say this is one of those federal lawsuits. Do, well, you said it wasn't a breach of contract to not enforce the rights because I can get that. Well, let's say I sued every sheriff's department in federal court. Pooch. I think it is, and I think there is a certain amount of tort liability. Yes. For actually having an oath of office for every employee. Yes. Of each and every sheriff's department, elected or appointed. Now, I am sure that, well, get me all appellate court judges, district court judges, all those that are on the federal payroll in every state of the United States. All of those, well, the civil rules, the federal rules of civil procedure, yes. That it would make it a crime to issue a dissolution of marriage without proof of service, yes. It would make it a crime to not to take custody of my sons without any due process at all. It would make it a crime, yes, to not attempt service. Ooch. It would make it a crime to violate the RCW's 40 days. Ooch. It would make it a crime to reissue a protection order where it wasn't within 90 days of the other one expiring. It would make it a crime to have any person serve me other than a sheriff. Yes. It would make it a crime to have return of service from any individual other than the respondent. Now, for me as a defendant, quite often these state guidelines for well, get me all of those federal judges and federal justices, the superior state of the United States, called the Master Chief Justice of the United States Court of Claims. Get me every import. You thought that You are not going to give me hundreds of billions of dollars for each and every. Well, I told you about the Master Chief Justice of the Court of Claims of the United States. I looked at the Master Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Claims of the United States of America. Yes. Looks like there's something in the Constitution about setting courts up every once in a while, Congress. Yes. It's kind of like passing treaties and then somebody, an employee of, well, we can get out that Constitution again because it says here, yes, all members shall observe and comply with every person's clearly established rights under the United States and Washington constitutions. Now, every one of these constitutions of every state of the United States, give me all the federal employees of all the federal courts for the last 40 years, and every employee of every federal court everywhere in the United States. Now, I'm not going through the Master Chief Justice of the United States Court of Claims. Congress is going to set up a new court, a court that's going to establish the actual damages. Congress. Now, this is the Constitution of the United States. Yes, yes, yes. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Ooh. Was it a state that signed some sort of treaty with Iran, or was it the federal government? And then, oh, the judicial branch, Article 3. Ouch. Judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts? Yes. That would put it in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Yes. The inferior courts of every federal court of the United States of America. Now listen, you dumb fucks that call yourself judges. You you're all losing your jobs. You remember that breach of contract for not enforcing the sheriff's manuals? Pooch, where you decided to take my sons without any due process to myself. Yes, without protecting their civil rights. And then I inform you of other crimes, and you decided that you're not going to enforce the laws. Well, these judges of the inferior courts known as the federal courts of the United States of America. You get to hold your office during good behavior, ouch, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Ouch. Why don't you get me the actual income of every judge of all the inferior courts known as the federal courts of the United States of America? You were getting paid this whole time? I'm kind of thinking that. Now look at here. Judicial power extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties. Now, this judicial power, when Kentucky decided to cancel a treaty, did the Supreme Court of the United States of America